Thank you and welcome to John6Media. We just wanted to take this opportunity to thank everyone who has supported this channel, everyone who has subscribed to this channel, and those of you who have liked our content, those of you who have commented on our content, and also to those of you who've actually visited our website and downloaded and purchased our tracks. We just want to say a big thank you to everyone. We started this channel in 2016 and it's come a long way. We now have approximately 13,000 subscribers. So we just really want to say a big thank you to you all. And also to give or to share a few words of encouragement. Just to encourage you. Maybe there are things that God has placed on your heart. Maybe there are plans that you have. Maybe there are certain things that you're aspiring to do or to achieve or to progress in your individual life. And just an opportunity to share a word of encouragement. This word has really encouraged us as we have gone through the years through our channel. And so just wanted to share that with you. So the word comes from the book of Numbers, chapter 13. And just to give some context to the story, the Israelites had been held captive, or they had been slaves in Egypt for 400 years. And God raised Moses, a prophet, and to lead them out of Egypt and lead them to the promised land. So at this particular part in the story, which is in Numbers 13, they had made their way out of Egypt, and they are just outside the promised land. So they are just about to reach the land that God has promised them. And so God speaks to Moses and asks Moses to identify 12 individuals who are going to go to the land to spy. So before they actually enter the land, they needed to send 12 spies to spy on the land, to see what's there, and to come back and give a report. So they went there for 40 days, and the verse I'm going to read right now, which is Numbers 13, verse 25, is when they return from spying the land. So Numbers 13, verse 25 says, "At the end of 40 days, they returned from spying out the land, and they came to Moses and Aaron and to all the congregation of the sons of Israel in the wilderness of Paran at Kadesh. They brought back word to them and to all the congregation and showed them the fruit of the land. And they told him, 'We came to the land to which you sent us. It flows with milk and honey, and this is its fruit.'" So they had gone to the land. They had seen that the land had milk and honey, and actually they returned with grapes and also pomegranates, which were fruits that were in Canaan, or the land that they were going to. So when they came back, they gave, first thing they said was all positive. They're saying this land flows with milk and honey. And this may be the same for us, that maybe we have an opportunity to actually see someone who has achieved what we're trying to achieve, and it inspires us because we can see it so close to us, and we can say, I can also do this. This is something that I'm inspired to do. We're so close. So they give a positive report, but in the next verse they then say, "Yet the people who dwell in the land are strong, and the cities are fortified and very large. And besides, we saw the descendants of Anak there. The Amalekites dwell in the land of the Negev. The Hittites, the Jebusites, and the Amorites dwell in the hill country. And the Canaanites dwell by the sea and along the Jordan." So what they're saying now is, we got to the land, but what they then saw was they saw these mighty people there. These maybe they saw people who discouraged them, and because they saw the challenges that were ahead for them to be able to possess the land. And it's the same for us as well, that whatever it is that God has placed on our hearts to do, there may be challenges or there may be difficulties that lie ahead, and maybe we can see them. They're staring us in the face. And one of the things that's interesting about this report that they give is that the first verse the verse we read, verse 27, has 25 words in it, and those words are all positive. And then verse 28 and 29, which are the negative report, have 59 words, which is almost twice the good word. So they speak a negative word, and the negative word overwhelms the positive that they'd actually seen. But in verse 30, we come across a character called Caleb. And Caleb says, "But Caleb quieted the people before Moses and said, 'Let us go up at once and occupy it, for we are able to overcome it.'" And so this is the words of Caleb. So Caleb was one of the 12. Caleb returns with a positive frame of mind. He saw the land and he feels that they can conquer it. Despite all the challenges that may be there, he feels that they can conquer it. And he says a very positive word. He says, "Let us go up at once and occupy it, for we are able to overcome it." So all the challenges that are there, Caleb's word was positive. Caleb's word was, "We can do this." But then the people who had given the negative word, they doubled down on what they had already said. So if we continue in verse 31, it says, "Then the men who had gone up with him said, 'We are not able to go up against the people, for they are stronger than we.' So they brought to the sons of Israel an evil report of the land which they had spied out, saying, 'The land through which we have gone to spy it out is a land that devours its inhabitants, and all the people that we saw in it are men of great stature. And there we saw the Nephilim, the sons of Anak, who came from the Nephilim, and we seemed to ourselves like grasshoppers, and so we seemed to them.'" And so they then double down on the negativity, and not only that, they actually use analogies which are like unrealistic in a sense. And this also happens to us, that sometimes we're discouraged, and in our discouragement we start speaking negative words, and we even start speaking things that maybe that they're not true, or we exaggerate the negativity, and it becomes even a worse situation than it was before. And so the result of this is ultimately God is displeased with the people. Actually, the people who heard the report, so only 12 spies went, but this negative report discouraged everyone else. So everyone else who heard that report became so discouraged, and they then started saying negative things toward Moses, and they almost were saying that we should just go back to Egypt, where we came from. And so through all of this, again, we get some more positivity from the character called Caleb. He then says, this is in verse 7, "And said to all the congregation of the sons of Israel, 'The land which we passed through to spy it out is an exceedingly good land. If the Lord delights in us, he will bring us into this land and give it to us, a land which flows with milk and honey.'" So it's really interesting how Caleb sees things. He sees things slightly different to everyone else, and we can see the character of Caleb comes out in the words that he speaks. One of the things he says here, he says, "If the Lord delights in us." So we can see the others had a view of themselves. They looked at themselves. They saw the land, they saw the promised land, but then they turned their eyes away from the promised land and to themselves. They looked at themselves, and it says here that we were like grasshoppers. So they made themselves really small. But if we look at Caleb, his eyes are on the Lord, and it says here, "If the Lord delights in us, he will bring us into the land and give it to us." And then it also says in verse 9, "Only do not rebel against the Lord, and do not fear, for the people of the land. Do not fear the people of the land, for they are bread for us. Their protection is removed from them, and the Lord is with us. Do not fear them. So again, he's saying the Lord is with us. He doubles down on his positivity. But the reason why he's positive is not necessarily because of himself. He's seeing that God is with them, and he's seeing God in the situation. So again, it's the same with us. We face all these challenges. We see things that may be obstacles to achieving the things that God has placed on our heart. But you can see here that he is saying that God is with us. So we shouldn't fear. We should see God rather than to see the obstacles that are in front of us. So anyway, you can read this story for yourself. It's in Numbers chapter 13 and 14. The one last thing I'll read, it's just something else Caleb said. So basically, after this, God becomes really disappointed with the people, and he almost says he's going to, destroy everyone who had come out of Egypt. But Moses intercedes for the people, and God then, still some people didn't get to enter the promised land, but he makes a promise to Caleb, and he says this. He says, "But my servant Caleb, because he has a different spirit and has followed me fully, I will bring into the land into which he went, and his descendants shall possess it." So sometimes when we read the story, it might be that we interpret it as well to just think that Caleb was positive. He was just a positive person. That's all he was all about, was positivity. But we can see here that God clearly says of Caleb, he has a different spirit. So he has a different spirit. He sees God in the situation. But not only that, he followed me fully. So he was obedient to God. He was obedient to the Lord. And I think it's the same with us, that whatever it is that we are desiring God to do for us, whatever it is that we are hoping that God can help us to achieve, that it's not only just having a positive mindset and just saying it will happen, but the other thing is to be obedient, to follow God, to follow his statutes, to follow the things he's instructed us to do. So I just wanted to share this. Again, it's Numbers 13 and 14. Please read it. And it talks about the spirit of Caleb. And hopefully this will encourage you. And once again, thank you to everyone who has followed our channel. Thank you to all the subscribers, everyone who's commented, everyone who's liked. We just want to say great thank you. And we hope that you continue to be with us. We'll be creating more instrumentals throughout the end of this year. And hopefully you'll join us again next year in 2023. Thank you.